touch with the Rich family. We talked on the telephone. I talked with Joel Rich, the father. Mary Rich was on the first telephone call, and then also their son, Aaron. And so we got to talking about it, and they had the understanding that if there was any fees that was going to be experienced if there were going to be any fees, then Ed would take care of that. And they agreed to it, and so they had me send them a contract of some type. So I just put something together, very generic, and sent it over to them. And the contract was signed by Aaron Rich, Joel, and Mary Rich. And that's when it all began. And the contract, and obviously I'll send you guys a copy of that because that's going to be very critical in this entire event. But the contract does say, I'll let you read it. It says, I can't talk to the media on behalf of the family. So we had that discussion, pretty extensive discussion, and I agreed that we all agreed I can talk to the media because they know that I talk to the media anyway as a regular, weekly thing on Fox News, but I would not be representing the family. So, for example, if I talk about an investigation or that investigation, I'll talk about it, but not speaking on behalf of the family. They made it known that they had a spokesperson, and that was it. So that was the extent of it, folks. And everything began at that point. A guy named Brad Bauman, Bauman. He is a DNC PR consultant. Now, I don't know him. I've never met him. I've never even spoke with him. Number one today, from what I hear from various people, that he's spreading all kinds of damaging, obviously, and that's his intent, and we get that, about me all over the world, literally. But that's their spokesperson. And, so I started working on behalf of them, trying to identify, like you would any investigation, but especially a murder investigation. You want to find out a little bit about the background of the decedent, relationships, things like that. Now, I was somewhat aware of this whole business about WikiLeaks, but I'll be honest, I wasn't totally aware of it because I've never, really followed that. I was focused solely on finding a murderer. That's all I was focused on. So the political implications of this case, I really wasn't involved with because I wasn't following it, right? But anyway, as I began to talk to, for example, Joel Rich and Mary Rich, they would share with me their thoughts on, relationships that Seth had with his girlfriend, some other friends of his, but they thought I should talk to his brother Aaron because him and Aaron was pretty close, pretty tight. So I said, okay. So I set up a call with Aaron and Molly. Molly is Aaron's wife. Molly is also an attorney. So we're talking, and they made it clear that in this investigation, no matter what happens, do not talk to anyone about any emails. And now, keep in mind, I wasn't really aware of all this business about the emails app. And I asked the question, why? I said, why do you not want to talk about the email? And they said, well, because we know his death is not the result of anything dealing with his job. So I said, okay, fair enough, but how do you know his death isn't related to his job? And Aaron, at that point, immediately interrupted and said, because we're telling you it's not. I've done all the investigation. This is what he said. And I have all of this in the report. Just as a side note, guys, I keep what I call a running resume. So every discussion, I make notes. And I have all of that. And at some point, you'll probably get all of this. But anyway, he made it clear his death was definitely not the result of email. Well, I'm not sure how you know that, but okay, I won't even think about the email. So I started setting up interviews with people who were friends of his. The bar where he was last seen the night he died. I went to that bar, and what was interesting, the first person I talked to after I talked to Joe and Aaron, my first interview was with a guy named Joe Capone,
who's the manager of the bar that Seth was at the night he died, before he died. So I wanted to talk to Joe to see if he could tell me a little bit about Seth. Well, when I get there, he says, "Oh, I was expecting you." Now, I didn't call him to tell him I was coming. That's not how I operate as an investigator. I usually just pop in. He says, "Oh, I was expecting you." I said, "You were expecting me?" He said, "Yeah, Aaron just called me." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, he told me that you were coming." Now, he doesn't want us to talk anything about computers or emails. I said, "He said that?" He said, "Yeah, he just told me I can talk to you, but don't say anything about emails." I said, "Well, unless it's related to his death." He said, "No, I can't say anything about email." Now I find that awfully strange, but okay. So we talk about relationships, and he was a real nice guy, this guy Joe was. And then I stayed there for about 45 minutes and I leave. The only other person I talked to was Kelsey. Well, the one other person was Kelsey, who was the girlfriend of Seth. And the day I met with, the first time I talked to her on the telephone, that's the first thing she told me. "I knew you was going to be calling because Aaron told me that you're going to be calling, but I can't talk to you about emails." Now, as an investigator, innocent investigator, meaning no political agenda, I'm thinking to myself, what's up with the emails? I wonder if the clue lies within the emails, And so I didn't talk to her about emails, and we talked, and then I asked if I could meet with her in D.C. because I was out of town when I talked to her, and she said, "Yeah, meet me down by my job." And she said, "I can talk better in person." And I have this all in the report. I don't have the report in front of me. But anyway, I met with her at her job. We met at a corner bakery here in D.C., 17th Street, and we talked. And she was pretty forthcoming, but she said that the only thing about the job she could tell me is that Seth was having issues with two supervisors on the job. And I said, okay, well, that's good information because, that could be a link to solving the case. You're having problems with a person, So I said, well, what's the supervisor's name? She said, "I can't give you that information." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Well, I don't really know their names, but I was told not to talk about his job, anything pertaining to his job." And I said, "By who?" She said, "Aaron." Okay. So we left it alone. So that was two examples of the issue about the emails coming up. And I've spoken with Joe and Aaron during the course of this time period, which again started in March of this year when I first started working for them. And each time we've had conversations, I bring up the possibility or the fact that in order to solve this case, regardless of what was the job, whether it was a box street robbery, whatever it was, doesn't matter to me. Let's find the bad guy. And I'd always say, I need to get more information, though, about his relationships on the job. And every time I would say that, Aaron would just totally go off. I mean, literally. "I told you don't be looking at the job. I've investigated it." And there was a few other things that was interesting. So, for example, I asked Aaron, did the police department confiscate his computer? Because I wanted to know where the computer was. If it's a murder, obviously, and they're going to go through his computer. He said, "Don't ask me anything about computers or emails." I said, "But Aaron, we're trying to find the murderer. And there's a possibility that a link may be on the computer through an email exchange, discussion, website, something." He said, "No." He said, "I have the computer," meaning him. I said, "Okay, well, can I take a look at it? I'll even come down there and be with you. I just want to go." He said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "Anything that could indicate that maybe Seth was having problems with someone." "No, I've already checked it. Don't worry about it." All right. So I got off of that. Then I said, "Cell phone." I understand from reading media reports that Seth had made several telephone calls the night of his murder, before he was murdered, to several people. And I got that information from Kelsey, his girlfriend. I said, "Who has his cell phones now?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, Kelsey tells me you have his cell phones." "Well, I don't have the cell phones." I said, "Well, does the police department have the cell phone? Because there's information, maybe he talks to the killer before he got killed. I don't know, He said, "No, we won't worry about the cell phones." Okay, so who did he talk to that night? I said, "Can we get access to his records, his AT&T records, and just get a copy of the numbers that that he dialed that night or that dialed him that night. No, we can't. So, all right. So he wasn't obviously. Literally, he was pushing back on this whole idea of checking cell phones. Seth went to a party at 10 o'clock that night of his death, at 10 o'clock p.m., before he went to the bar where he was at, Joe Capone's bar. And he was there with some friends. This is just a good example as to the pushback I got from Aaron. Well, Kelsey told me about the party. Well, I hadn't heard about the party from anyone else. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to find out who was at that party and whether or not the police department interviewed people at that who was at that party to maybe get some clues, right? And I mentioned it to Aaron, to Aaron. I said, Aaron, I understand Seth went to a party. He said, yes. I said, well, can I get the names of the person or people that gave that party so I can go talk to them? What do you need to talk to them about? Seth died at 4 a.m. I said, I know, but I'm thinking it could have been someone at the party. Maybe he had an interaction with, guy follows him. You know how it goes. So he goes, no, that didn't happen. And then again, I said, how do you know this? I'm telling you, right, it didn't happen. Now, all I want you to do is work on the botched robbery theory. That's it. So that's where we are. And that's the frustration I have, because if you really want the case solved, then you have to let the investigator do his job. That hasn't been the case here. Now, it's a little bit different, and this is important with Joe. And Joe, I enjoy talking to Joe, the father, because he doesn't appear to have any hidden agendas. You know what I mean? He's not, like, for example, the computers. I didn't even know that Seth had 2 cell phones. Joel told me. Joel said, yeah, he had just bought another cell phone. I said, really? I said, had the other cell phone been activated? He said, you know what? I'm not sure, but Aaron should know because Aaron has the cell phone. And then that's when I asked Aaron about the second cell phone, and he said, no, I don't know what he's talking about. So real quickly, I'll give you the short but complete version of this. We have been working on trying to uncover information pertaining to the death of Seth Rich. Well, Fox News reporter, Malia Zimmerman, had come across a witness, or a person who was an informant, I should say, an anonymous source who indicated that he knew for a fact, without a doubt, that emails were sent from Seth's computer to WikiLeaks. Now, she notified me of this informant's information and informed me that this individual is very credible. Okay, that's interesting. And this guy worked as a federal investigator, maybe associated with the FBI. Now, if this guy, what he's saying is true, then the family needs to know about this. And Fox News was going to go with that story and report that on Tuesday of this week. So immediately, when she notified me, Malia, about this information, I said, well, that kind of makes sense in a way, because with everybody pushing back on this email thing and the family, and they're so protective of the email, it leads me to think that perhaps there were some communication between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks. Now, that's it. Perhaps there were some communications based on the totality of everything the craziness that's been going on with this email and computer stuff. And now this guy's saying he knows for a fact. So what did I do? I immediately called Chief Newsom at the police department, who I know very well. And I didn't get him, but I sent him an email. And I said, Chief, I need to talk to you right away. I just learned some information, major information, about the Seth Rich case, and it may be related to WikiLeaks and this Russian hacking thing. We need to talk as soon as possible. Chief Newsom emailed me back, Rod, not a problem, but I want you to talk to my director of communications for the police department. Okay, I got those emails, by the way, right? So I immediately get an email from the director of communications from the police department, and I tell this guy, I said, I need to talk to you. I got this information. He said, okay, I'll call you at 12 noon. He calls me at 12 noon, and I shared this information. I said, look, I just learned that there's an FBI agent or a former FBI agent who says he knows for a fact that emails were sent from Seth Rich's computer to WikiLeaks. I said, the police department needs to know about this because that may hold the key to solving the murder. The guy goes, really? I said, yeah. And I said, and the story is going to come out on Tuesday regarding this. You guys need to know about this because that may hold the clue to solving the murder. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, I don't know who this FBI informant is. I just learned of this through Fox News. I said, but I thought it was important that I get you this information so you guys can look into it. He said, okay, well, thanks for sharing that with us. I said, okay, great. So I get a telephone call from the detective, the lead detective handling the case. And I tell him the exact same thing. And he said, okay, Rod, well, let's meet. I said, okay, great. Let's meet at the Library of Congress on the 6th floor in the cafeteria. Now, this conversation took place on Friday, last Friday. We said, let's meet Monday on the 6th floor of the Library of Congress. There's a cafeteria up there. Library of Congress. Well, Monday rolled around, and I called him 2 or 3 times. He never called me back. And I thought that was strange because I was like, why isn't he calling me back? But anyway, he didn't call me back because I wanted to talk about this new information we learned, especially before it hits the news media. But then I said, well, let me call Joel Rich and let him know because this is important. This could be a major, major break in the case. So I called Joel, and I said, Joel, I wanted to call you and tell you about this new information Fox News has uncovered that I think could be a break in the case regarding emails possibly being sent to WikiLeaks. Joe said, stop, Rod. Stop right there. I know all about it. I said, you do? He said, yeah. He said, a Fox News reporter called me this morning and told me about this. I said, okay, well, the story is going to hit tomorrow, but I think you need to know. And I said, by the way, I called the police department and tried to share the information with them. He said, okay. He said, well, what do you think we can do? I said, well, let's wait until the story comes out and actually see what's in it, and then we'll go from there. He said, because don't you have a friend, Michelle Sagona, that works for Crime Watch Daily, who the Rich family knows. Michelle's an investigator for one of these news stories, for one of these news networks. And I said, yeah, but let's not call Michelle. Let's wait until the story drops. He said, okay. Well, this was right around 5 o'clock on Monday. Well, then I get a phone call, or I sent a text message to this reporter at Fox 5 DC, who I had been trying to get information from. She covered the story of Seth Rich's death. That's how I even came across this woman. Marina Morocco is her name. She's been slamming me like crazy in the DC area on the news each and every day, calling me everything but a child of God. But anyway, well, I met face-to-face with Della Cameron. He met with me over at my office down in D.C. And nice guy. We talked a long time. But he kept telling me the entire conversation, Rod, I can't tell you anything. I can't. I said, why? He said, well, they want us to not say anything about this case and kind of like stand down. Really? I said, who? He said, come on, man. I can't tell you anymore. You know that. He said, I'll be working over at CCB, which is the Central Cell Block. That's where officers go when they screw up or whatever. So I said, okay, I hear you. He said, I don't want you to throw me under the bus. I said, Della Cameron, I will not throw you under the bus. I'm not going to mention anything. He said, well, I can't tell you anything much, Rod, but, that was pretty much where we left it. And we talked, and I have it in the form of a report. He shared a number of things with me, and I'll forward that on to you. So, very good conversation. But I was shocked that he didn't call me back or anything on Monday when we were supposed to meet. So anyway, the reporter met Marina Morano or whatever. She met me over at a restaurant in D.C. I was at a restaurant because she texted me and said, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah. Because I had told her about this breaking news that Fox News Channel was going to go with the story the next day. And I wanted to see if she had heard about it. And she said she had heard about it, but she wanted to talk to me. So she met me over at the restaurant, and she said, can we get to interview for on air tonight? And I said, let me check with Fox News producers. So I checked with Fox, and they said, no, we don't want her to go with this story. And I said, well, she tells me that she's only going to do a teaser. She's not going to talk about the case because I didn't have details about the case. So she's the local reporter. So she meets with me at the restaurant, and she meets me outside the restaurant for a total of 3 minutes. And we're talking about, this new information that's going to come out the next day. I didn't have any details. All I knew was that it was some FBI agent who had provided information that appears to be credible that emails were sent. And so she recorded me saying that to her. But I told her, I said, Marina, you can't go with this story because this is a Fox News story. She said, oh, I'm not going to go with it. It's just going to be a teaser. 10 o'clock at night when the news comes on, this is the top of the news show, and it's an exclusive breaking news, not a teaser. And I'm like, what? And that's when hell began for me because she has me on. She's quoting me as saying I was the first person. I'm in a first person position to see these emails and see his computer. And I never said that. But she's reporting this. But she's talking to me and she's asking me a question. She's asking me, so there is an FBI agent that confirms or that's credible that says that emails were sent from WikiLeaks, from Seth's computer to WikiLeaks. She quotes me. Well, she's been quoting me with part of what we talked about, not everything, just part of what we talked about in that 3-minute interview. Put it like this. The part that she quoted me and played the video on live on air was about 15 seconds of the 3-minute interview. Oh, absolutely. It's totally incomplete. Because when you hear me on the tape, on the video, it makes it sound like I'm in a first person position. But that's only because that's where she started the video. So what I'm telling her is that, think of it like this. I'm telling her we have information that emails were sent. And she says, and that's confirmed. I said, confirmed. And that is confirmed. So that is absolutely true. But I didn't say, I saw this. I attributed it to the FBI agent. See, she didn't play that part of it. She didn't play that part of the video. So she made it seem like it was a first person deal that I'm saying I saw this. But then the end of the video, I say to her on camera, and this aired, that we need to find out where the computers are so we can check into this because we don't know where the computers are. So when you hear that, you have to say to yourself, if you don't know where the computers are, then how is it that you could have seen the email? So she ran with the story. The story blew up. I emailed her. I texted her. I said, why did you go with this story when you wasn't supposed to? And you didn't even get these details from me, but you made it sound like you did. And then that's when everything started. I'm going to read it to you real quick. All right, here it is right here. Monday at 3:22. Well, actually, let's go back. Wednesday, May 10th. Hey, Rod, it's Marina. Are you in D.C. right now? I replied, I'm on an airplane en route back to Reagan. No worries. Have a safe flight. Talk soon. Okay. Then I said, okay, got some new information on the Rich case. Will be breaking on Fox News Channel on Tuesday. Meeting with Newsom on Friday. That's the chief of police. Nice, good work. Call tomorrow. Monday, 3:22 p.m. The story will break tomorrow morning. Got confirmation that Rich did in fact send info to WikiLeaks. That's from that FBI guy, right? She says, can you talk to us? I replied, let me check with the Fox News Channel producer. Called the producer. Producer says, no, we don't want her to go with this story because this is our story. And I said, well, she said she's just going to do a teaser. At that same time, Marina texts me, just for local, 10 p.m., we can tease to whatever show you'll be doing tomorrow, period. Publicity. At 5:17, she texts me, we are parked outside the Hyatt in our live truck. I was at a restaurant right outside, right down there by the Hyatt. So that's why she came down there. So I'm at this restaurant called Art and Soul right across from the Hyatt. She says she's outside the restaurant. So, okay, I go out there for about 3 minutes, and I tell her about this breaking news story that's going to come out tomorrow. So I share that with Marina. Camera's rolling, but the camera's rolling, but I'm not knowing that this conversation is being recorded. And and just put an asterisk by that, because I'm going to show you why I confronted her about that. And she said, it doesn't matter. If the camera was rolling, the camera was rolling. All right. That was in a subsequent conversation. So in other words, guys, when I talked to her about this case, the camera was rolling, but it wasn't in an interview type thing where she had the microphone up to my face. You understand what I mean? So 9:50 p.m., this is after the story breaks as a top breaking news story. Exclusive is how it was identified on Fox 5. We have exclusive information. Now, this was supposed to be a tease, remember? So I text her and say, Fox News Channel is pissed. We went with the story before them. Oops. She replies, the story has already blown up. This will only give credence to the story. If Fox News Channel broke it, it would seem like conspiracy theories. Tomorrow will be huge for you guys. Can't wait. So she decided that she was going to run with this story in her mind so that it didn't seem like a conspiracy theory for Fox News. That corroborates what I've been saying all along, that I told her not to go with this story. Fox National was mad because the story aired as an exclusive story for Fox 5 DC when it wasn't. They hadn't even investigated this thing. It was that's how she ran with it, as an exclusive story. And then, like I said, she said this will only give credence to the story. If Fox News Channel broke it, it would seem like conspiracy theory. Tomorrow will be huge for you guys.